So, show host Trevor Noah. I think Trevor Noah was trying to be like a comedic late night show host for some reason, but he was so unfunny that his show didn't last very long. And Princeton professor Ruha Benjamin suggests segregation should be reintegrated into American schools, says that integration was not the right solution. I'm gonna let this play before I give my thoughts. I'm gonna play this video clip first, you know? We're gonna listen to this.
I found myself wondering, and this applies to America, and then maybe it'll go to other places in a different way because Finland ties in. Do you think that integration was the right move? Like, and now I'm separating two things, because I know in America people are like, well, of course, I mean, there was racism and there was segregation, and I go, yeah, no, I'm separating them. Let's separate someone being oppressed and someone not being able to get a job and someone not being able to get a bank loan. Let's take all of those, the negative things away, because I'll put myself out personally and say, I think whether we're talking about gifted kids who are anomalous, let's say, to the norm, whether we are talking about and I mean anything that does not fit into a category, I think the part of the reason Finland is able to do it is because, have you been to Finland?
It's very homogeneous.
I've been to Finland. You know who's in Finland? Finnish people. That's it. That's it. And because they're all Finnish, there's an idea of like, no, we all head in the same direction. We all know what our actions mean. And that's a really powerful thing I've learned in communicating with other people. When I'm in a room with anyone where we start to tie together multiple things. So if I'm in a room with black people, already there's like an implicit trust because we know what certain actions, words, and vibes mean. And then you're in a room with another African. Already. This person. Now, even if you shout at me, I know what your shout means. The same way an Italian knows what an Italian shout means.
Yeah.
Right? I know I'm prefacing it with a lot because it's a loaded question.
Yes.
But I would love to know if you think integration was the right solution, maybe, on the other side of, you know, what America, of civil rights.
Yeah. No, I don't. and I don't think it's actually that controversial when, if you understand.
It's not controversial to say that integration was a mistake. I have a feeling a lot of people who have gotten deplatformed would disagree with that. I have a feeling a lot of people who might, I don't know, I don't have a mug big enough to cover my face right now. You know, I just, hold on, it's almost over, chat.
And that segregation and integration weren't the only options. Like, those are, within those two options, it may seem like integration is the more progressive. Like, of course, we don't want segregation. But again, when you're being integrated into institutions, into a culture that's a supremacist culture, that's a culture that feeds off of hierarchy, that feeds off of insecurity, anxiety, why are we being integrated into that?
I mean, I think she fundamentally misunderstands the society that they were being integrated into. But I mean, now that they're saying that integration was a mistake and that segregation should be a thing, is it going to be fine to say that? Is it going to be okay to say like, well, maybe the mug man had a point and we can't live near these people? Is that going to be okay now too? One ticket back to Africa. If we were to fund like a return to Africa program, would that no longer be considered racist? If we used our tax dollars to be like, you give up American citizenship, one-way ticket back to the African country of your ancestral choice, would that still be considered racist in current year if they are now advocating for integration was a mistake? The melting pot idea of the United States has been proven to be an abject failure. Assimilation has never been possible. Yeah, and like people get really mad when I also use melting pot, but like I don't know what else to call it because that's like the only way that it's been called for ages. But it is not a melting pot because everybody just self-segregated into their own little areas. Integration was forced on the American people. There are photos of the army soldiers. Yeah, those were going around on Twitter recently as well. And you're watching me on the TV, so you couldn't say anything. You agree punishment for criminal action should be based on that actions, not thoughts. A thought should only be based on criminal action. One's failure in controlling those actions, yeah, it's just like, you know. The U.S. Literally tried deportation like that after abolition, and they all died horribly of tropical diseases they'd lost immunity to. Oh. Wasn't there a publicly funded Return to Africa fund, and when they got there, they said something about it? Liberia. I know Liberia was an African nation set up by freed slaves who wanted to return to Africa. Beyond that, I don't know anything about Liberia. Heroin spoon, crack pipe. I don't give up on assimilation. Newcomers need a culture to join into. I think assimilation on a small scale is possible, right? Which is why, like, some immigration was able to work, right? But I mean, even then, if you look at a place like New York City or Boston, everyone just segregated into their own little cultural sects. Like when you go to Boston, you have like Little Italy, you have Little Ireland, you have Chinatown. New York has like the similar concept where they have all these little enclaves that are all these different ethnicities that came over, and instead of meshing together and assimilating together, yes, they assimilated to American culture, but they still self-segregated. You have a Little Ireland. Yeah, of course we do. There's more Irish in the US than in Ireland these days. Oh no. Polish, Italian, Russian, Ukrainian immigrants during the 1900s hated each other. You know, that's your family. I mean, like, even where I live right now, if I go to like certain areas, there's no signage in English, and it's not in Spanish like most people might assume. There's entire enclaves of like Korean people that haven't assimilated into American culture. Everything is in Korean. They refuse service to non-Korean speaking people sometimes. Like there have been restaurants where they will pretend to not speak English so that they do not have to like let me and Tim into the restaurant. But if we go with his mother and she speaks to them in Korean, they'll let all three of us in. So it's like there are these places in the United States still. Enclaves are bad and need to be rooted out. The Koreans took over your hometown of Johns Creek. That must be where Tim is from. Well, he's not like a test tube baby. His mom came here from South Korea. Isn't that discrimination? Yes, but who's going to do anything about it? You know? In-group preferences. Yeah, everyone has in-group preferences. Everyone has, you know, those normal biases towards their own people, except for white people. White people, for some reason, have out-group preference. I don't really understand why. Same with London and the Arabs taking over them. The UK, I can't remember who was arguing with it, but like somebody was arguing about them actually being British, and it's just like, I think it might have been Callum again. He's had so many fucking banger tweets recently. Hold on, let me see if I can find his tweet, because he did a copy pasta. So this lady said, "Today I've decided to return to calling myself English because I am. Born in England makes me English." And there's like a picture of her with peace signs in front of a microphone. And Callum said, "You will never be English. You have no Anglo. You have no Saxon. You are a Pakistani twisted by ideology and delusion into a crude mockery of nature's perfection. All the validation you get is two-faced and half-hearted. The Celts are utterly repulsed by you. Thousands of years of oppression have allowed Celts to sniff out frauds with incredible efficiency. Even foreigners who pass look uncanny and unnatural to a Celt. They'll bury you with a headstone marked with your birth name, and every passerby for the rest of eternity will know a Pakistani is buried there. Your body will decay and go back to the dust, and all that will remain of your legacy is a skeleton that is unmistakably Pakistani." Oh my god. The ancient texts! The Celts. So I go between saying Celt and Celt. You know, I don't know. My brain is a mashed potato, chat. Well, that's rude. Yeah, but I mean, it's true, so it doesn't really matter if it's rude. We don't live in Canada where you shouldn't say facts just because they're racist. The Celts are Celts, chat. What is this advanced racism? It's not advanced racism. It's not. If I go to Japan and I get Japanese citizenship and I give birth to a child in Japan, not to a Japanese husband, both myself and that child are not Japanese. We might live in Japan, we might adopt the customs of Japan, but we cannot be Japanese. Rat and aquarium analog. Nice rewrite of the woman pasta. I love rewrites of the woman pasta, man. And PewDiePie's kid is your favorite Japanese person. I love a famous Japanese YouTuber, PewDiePie. You're Australian. You've had Germans tell you that you look British. What does that make you? Australian? I mean, Australia was a British colony for prisoners at one point, so I mean... This is Intro to Racism. Advanced Racism is when you start using Ben Franklin's map for what is defined as white. Oh god, if you play Oingo Boingo on repeat for 3 years, another country doesn't make you one of them. If you assimilated into the culture, you would be ethnically, but not racially. Yeah. It's like you can be ethnically, you can be... Actually, no, I don't think you can. I think ethnicity would be the same thing, actually. Ethnicity would be the same thing. Like, as an American with, like, Italian, French ancestry, I could not become ethnically Japanese. I could become, like, a Japanese national by getting a citizenship. Culturally, that's the word we're looking for. Could become culturally Japanese. Wasn't it the Dalai Lama that said something in that way, that English people should live in England and Pakistani should live in Pakistan or something like that in an interview? Maybe. I remember, like, at the beginning of the 2010s, the Dalai Lama said something and everybody was like, oh my god, he's racist! And it's like, well, no shit. Nationally and culturally, but not ethnic and racially. Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. If you don't intermarry, you're just an outsider. Europe belongs to the Europeans.
Moral principle. Keep Europe for Europeans.
Campaign to leave the European Union used one of your quotes in their posters. It said the goal should be that migrants return and help rebuild their countries. You have to be practical. It's impossible for everyone to come.
Well, obviously. That should be just like a no-brainer, like fucking duh. Like you can't have everyone go there. Because if you import everyone, not only do the countries lose their identity and lose their culture, but they lose the reasons why people went there in the first place.
Should take these refugees and give them education and training.
I'm going to eat a strawberry.
Is return to their own land.
And if these people want to stay in Europe, shouldn't they be allowed to?
Oh, I remember this now.
Limited number, okay. But the whole Europe eventually become Muslim country, impossible. Or African country, also impossible.
There's nothing wrong with that, is there? I mean, you're a refugee yourself.
They themselves, I think, better to their own land. So better.
What does she mean by what's wrong with that? There's something inherently wrong with thinking it's okay for Germany to become a Muslim country or an African country. That should not be okay. Each European country should be allowed to have its cultural and national identity. And it's weird that anyone would think otherwise.
Keep Europe for Europeans.
You're a migrant, you're a refugee. You know, you had to flee your homeland. There are now millions of people, mainly from Syria,
That's right.
who are having to be displaced across Europe. What do you think the answer is to this crisis?
Main effort should go their own country, bring peace.
In Syria?
Syria, Libya, or even Afghanistan. Generally, you see, people always feel, oh, one day we return. So
ultimately, all refugees, they should aspire to go back to their homeland.
Yes.
And the environment should be created.
Yes.
And this is something I don't understand with people who come to America as well. And then they have this, like, delusional national pride, right? Like, you'll see Mexicans waving Mexican flags, and you'll see, like, Palestinians waving Palestinian flags. You have these, like, Muslim enclaves in like, certain towns in, like, Minnesota and whatnot. And it's like, if you have such great national pride, why are you staying here instead of returning to your country to improve it? If you have such immense national pride, why would you not want to improve your country's standing? Use your skills to make a difference in your country that you apparently feel such great pride for. And it's like, it's fine to have pride for your heritage. It's fine to have pride in those things, but you should also have pride in the country that has given you opportunity and changed your life as well. Right? Like, they want to leech off of you. That's why. I mean, obviously, yes. Like, these people come to America hating America, wanting to leech off of the tit of America, and then laugh at all of us because we're getting taken advantage of and there's nothing we can do to stop it. Until now, thankfully, Trump's administration is actually tackling some of these things. Again, I still think that if they're going to do mass deportations, another thing that absolutely needs to be fixed is removing incentive to come here in the first place. No free benefits, no free handouts, no free housing, no nothing. You shouldn't get free shit for coming here illegally. It's because they're posers. You generally agree, but what about people who were born as the sons and daughters of immigrants who only know America and have American ideology? I don't think if you are the son or the daughter of an illegal immigrant and you are having more immense pride in the country that your parents came from than the country that you grew up in and is the one that gave you the opportunities you have, I feel like, again, you were not born an American if you were born to illegal immigrant parents. You can also leave with your parents. You're very food motivated, so you're taking pride in culinary prowess of your ancestors. Sucks, go back. Yeah, no more anchor babies, dude. That's been exploited way too fucking much. So many of these second gens hate America. It's unfortunate. Margaret Thatcher on illegal immigration is kind of starting to happen now in Europe, or might end up. Good. The family that jumps the border together gets deported together. True. And true and real. It's easy. It is a lot of work. Plus, they believe that X country's culture will be accepted here in America, which is just weird, right? Like, again, I have zero issue, like, if there was a Mexican who, like, had a Mexican flag and an American flag, and he's like, I have pride in my heritage, but I also have pride in this country that I purposefully emigrated to, and that's why I'm here. I love it here. I wanted to be an American. That's perfect. That makes sense. That's, like, pride in their national identity, and also pride in their new nation. That should be how things are, right? Would the concept of joining the American tribe be something to consider? There's nothing wrong with being proud of your heritage. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's fair. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstood again, right? I didn't want people being like, oh, so you don't think that Mexicans can be proud of being Mexican? And it's like, oh, God, I should clarify. But Kirsche, you're French, and I love surrendering to a man who can dominate me. It all boils down to wanting to be special. Many of the people that do that crap, like that, don't even speak the language of the country they're so proud of, which is another thing I think we should stop. When I went to apply for state healthcare back when I lived in Massachusetts, I had to sit and wait like multiple hours in the office to speak to someone who spoke English. They had people there that spoke like fucking 20 different languages, but they didn't have a representative that I could speak to that spoke English at that time. And I think if you're going to try and get on our, like, state healthcare benefits, you should absolutely fucking speak English. You should not be given someone that speaks your language in the United States of America. If you can't speak our language, you should not get our benefits. But Kirsche, this is really just a thought nationality. Oh my God. Have a cheeseburger. You're not yourself when you're hungry. You know, I got a lot of stuff today that lets me go a little off the rails, man. Everyone should speak English anyway. I mean, it's obviously a very universally useful language, but if I went to another country, I'm going to attempt to speak their language because I'm in their country. Even if I'm only there short term as a tourist, right? I'm going to have a terrible accent. I'm going to mispronounce everything, but at least I'd be trying, you know? No English, no entry. German heritage, Kirsche. You'll surrender to me. It's my birthright. Oh my God. Help doing the lines of gamer subs. I don't know if you should snort that. You've heard tales about some people live in the UK for 40 years and not learn English. We also have conclaves. Yeah. The same thing happens in the US. Absolutely same thing happens in the US. No shirt, no shoes, no English, no service, man. Dear Kirsche, what languages can you speak? I used to speak German pretty fluently. But again, German is not a very useful language in the US unless you work in business or finance. You don't use it, you lose it. So I can basically do like, probably like kindergarten conversational German at this point. because I have forgotten a lot of conjugations, a lot of like which words are which gender, forgotten entire words in general, you know. So I'm not very good at it anymore. I would love to take a vacation in Japan. So I feel like if I ever actually plan out a vacation in Japan, I'll probably do some more minor learning Japanese streams. So I can have some conversational, but also have the help of like a real-time translator with me, like on my phone or some shit. Can I say cherry in German? Kirsche. You want to visit Japan as well? Yeah, absolutely. Der, die, das. Yeah, dude, like, even when I was learning German, it never made fucking sense to me. Like, as an American, where everything is just like, the bottle, the lamp post, the telephone, the keyboard, the computer. It breaks my brain when I try to use a language that has, like, masculine, feminine, and neutral for their things, because it's like, how the fuck do I know if a lamp is masculine or feminine? How the fuck do I know if a keyboard is masculine or feminine? What if it's neither? What if it's the neutral one? How the fuck am I supposed to know? It's because English has implied gender. The Polt fan came in clutch when it came to ordering food. Oh, hell yeah, dude. I'd love to hang out with Polt fan when I go to Japan. That'd be so fun. Why we gotta put our genitals in our furniture just to talk about it? Did you know that Verstal is German for cakes? I just made that word up, and I see a couple of people saying that it's, like, close to the German word for steel. So I guess, like, hire me to make a new language somewhere. Yeah, the key to masculine, feminine languages is just imagine the objects with or without tits. But what if I misgender the object? Oddly enough, a lot of people say English is one of the hardest languages to learn. I mean, I can see that being fair, because if you're used to some kind of rigid structure, and then you come into English where we're just like, yeah, fuck you, buddy. Like, I can see that being difficult, you know? English is tough because of all the slang. Also fair. Is Kirsche a reference to Albedo in Xenosaga? Yes, because I would have loved to be one of his little Kirschwassers. The Germans and French communicate in English because they don't want to speak each other's languages. That's funny. Yeah, fuck you, buddy. Boston English at work. True. Oh, wait, what? Verstal is just made up? You always wondered where it came from? Yeah, Kirsche is because I liked the Kirschwassers in Xenosaga. And then, Verstal, I figured, like, every VTuber has a last name, so I should have one too. So at one point, I just, like, closed my eyes and hit letters on the keyboard, and then I would, like, repeat that, you know, make a bunch of words over and over again. And then I would open my eyes and read the words and see which one I liked the most. And originally, Verstal didn't have the H in it, but I thought it looked much better with the H and also kind of flowed off your tongue a bit better. So I changed the spelling of it as well, because it's my made-up fucking word. Verstal sounds similar to German steel, so her name is almost Cherry Stealer. I unironically, accidentally have been. You're very Aryan German. Grammar and articles don't really make sense. Most people just use it automatically. Like, it was so hard for my brain. Absolutely so fucking hard to, like, remember which objects had which gender when I was learning German. Common Kier W. Verstal sounds like a real surname. Thank you. But my imagination is wonderful. If you misgender an object, it talks trash about you on Blue Sky. Yeah, but I don't give a shit what pedophiles have to say. I should finish listening to the Llama Man.
Should rebuild their own country. Refugees from other country to Europe, I think, like Germany and some other European countries, provide help them. Wonderful. However, these refugees from different country, I think they themselves also should think their home is their own land. Eventually, they should return their own land to rebuild their own country. That's my view, right from the beginning. So give shelter. For example, we Tibetan take shelter in India, but most of Tibetan is eventually, when situation change, everybody is want to return. So each country, their own culture, their own language, their own way of life, it's better to live their own country. That's my view.
I was like, I don't really get why he was called racist for this, because it makes sense to me. It's also why I say, like, it's a good thing that, you know, like, Russia and now the US is offering refugee status to South African Boers, but I understand why they want to stay there. That is their home. That is where they grew up. That's where their parents grew up, and their parents' parents. That's like their homeland. So like I'm going to be worried for people who are basically living under an oppressive genocidal regime, but also I understand that even in the face of that, why they want to stay and why they feel the attachment and why they want to improve the conditions there, not just for themselves, but for the future Boers who will live there, hopefully. And being called racist for common sense is just par for the course today. I fucking hate Clown World, man. Oh, I hate Clown World so much. It's the opposite of what the Pope says. The Llama Man is smarter than the Pope. Yeah, the Pope seems to have been ideologically captured for a hot fucking minute. It's a little weird.